Good morning, children. Let's get ready to learn something new in your history class. Now, this will be a very interesting video for you. Alright. Today we'll be studying Chapter 6, Beginning of Freedom Movement, Part 1. Now, in the previous chapter, that is Chapter 5, Social and Religious Reforms, what did you learn? You learned about the religious reforms that some important thinkers brought up to drive out the superstitious beliefs of people, right? You learned all these things. Now in this lesson, you're going to learn something more about the new thinkers and activists. There were some great activists who decided it's time now to take back freedom. How did they do that? That is they did it through several movements, that is activities and protests. These are the great activists. Over here you see the great activists. First one is, over here you see is Dr. Bao Daji Lad. Dr. Bao Daji Lad. Next, Dadabhai Naoroji. Dadabhai Naoroji. Next, Dr. R.G. Bandar. Dr. R.G. Bandar. This is Lal Bal Pal, very famous, three activists. Okay, Lal Bal Pal they are known as. Next one over here is Vyomesh Chandra Banerjee. Vyomesh Chandra Banerjee. Next we come to Dr. Annie Besant. Dr. Annie Besant. And last one, but not the least, and very famous, is Lokmanya Tilak. You might recognize him, children. Lokmanya Tilak. Now what work did they do? What work did they do? Tell me. Come on, let's find out. Shall we? Now the points that we will be studying in part 1 are background formation of Indian National Congress, centralization of administration during British rule, economic exploitation, Western education, study of ancient Indian history, contribution of newspapers. Next we'll come to establishment of Indian National Congress, objectives of the Indian National Congress, and lastly we'll learn about, very important, moderate phase, which was from 1885 to 1905, and lastly the extremist phase, that is from 1905 to 1920. We will all learn this in this part 1. Let's go ahead. Students, I want you to please listen and watch carefully to this explanation of part 1. Okay, very important.
Students, myself Geeta Kadam, and today we are going to learn about chapter number 6 in our history, and the name of the chapter is Beginning of Freedom Movement, Part 1. Let us start. Students, in the previous chapter, we saw that due to the Britishers, English education started in our India. And after some time, English education made mixed effects on the Indian society. English educated Indians were instrumental in bringing about Renaissance, bringing about change. They launched reform movements in social, political, religious, economic and cultural fields. This Renaissance sowed the seeds of nationalism in India. Students, nationalism means it's a feeling that we all are together under one nation. We all are united under one roof. So that nationalism feeling created by the newly educated Indians. The various movements in different parts of the country created the need of a political organization at all India level having a common goal. And on this background, Indian National Congress, this organization formed, and they worked for the freedom struggle of our India. So students, in this part, we are going to learn about the following points. First one is background of the formation of Indian National Congress. Second point, establishment of Indian National Congress. Third point, moderate phrase. And fourth point, extremist phrase. So, let us start with the point background of the formation of Indian National Congress. Let us see the background for formation of Indian National Congress. First reason is centralization of administration. See students, due to the British administration, its implementation on India brought nation under one roof in its true sense. Due to the identical reforms, means equal policies all over the country and equality before the law, because of these, the feelings of nationalism developed among the Indians. And for the convenience of administration and swift movement of the army, Britishers also developed the transportation. Okay, means British built the network of roads and railways. But these facilities benefited the Indians as well. The people from different parts of India came in contact of each other and there was increase in communication and the feeling of nationalism grew up. Means the centralization of administration, it helped us for increase the feeling of nationalism. Now students, the next reason for the formation of Indian National Congress was economic exploitation. As we knew students, the Indian wealth was flowing towards England by all means. Due to the imperialist policy of England, there was a beginning of economic exploitation of India. How? See, the farmers were compelled means pressurized to take the cash crops. Beside that, the burden of land taxes on farmer, continuous famines, all these broke down the backbones of Indian agriculture. Traditional industries were declined, which led to rise in unemployment. Then the capitalists exploited the worker class. Like this, the various new taxes were also imposed on the middle class. So this led to the growth of discontent among the people. So students, like that, the economic exploitation also help us to increase the feeling of nationalism and discontent against the Britishers. Now students, the next reason for the formation of Indian National Congress was Western education. Due to the spread of Western education, students, in the previous chapters we saw that the new ideas like justice, liberty, equality, democracy, etc. were introduced to the Indians. And the principles like rationalism, scientific attitude, humanity, nationalisms, these principles were accepted by the Indians due to the Western or foreign education. And these principles, because of these values, which inculcated a feeling that we are capable of carrying out the work of our country. And its progress is also possible by following these principles. Students, India is a country of diverse languages, but with the introduction of English language, India got a new medium of communication. English language proved to be a binding factor for the whole country. Now students, the next point or the next reason for the formation of Indian National Congress was study of ancient Indian history. As we knew students, the Asiatic Society was established at Bengal by the British, and many Indians and Western scholars, they started study of our Indian culture. Then the manuscripts means handwritten literature in the Sanskrit and Persian and other languages were examined and researched was published. Then Dr. Bhaudaji Lad, Dr. R.G. Bhandarkar, these Indian scholars, they made intensive study of our ancient Indian culture. Intensive means detailed study. And after understanding that, we are blessed with glorious ancient tradition, and Indians were awakened with a sense of our own identity. The Bhandarkar Oriental Research Institute is also working since last 100 years in Pune. Besides that, students, the contribution of newspapers were also important. During this period, English and vernacular newspapers and periodicals came to be published. Through these newspapers, political and social awakening took place. Then the newspapers like Darpan, Amrit Bazar, Patrika, Hindu, Prabhakar, Keshri, Maratha, they started criticizing the government. So students, all these reasons, they led down the growth of discontent among the Indian peoples against the Britishers. So students, as we saw that the English educated Indians were instrumental to bring about Renaissance. They launched reform movements in different fields. And now it was necessary to bring together the groups and the peoples who had politically awareness. It was necessary to draw attention the people towards the question of the nation. This led to the emergence of a political organization on all India level. And from that, the Indian National Congress, all India level, this organization was formed. So, let us see about Indian National Congress. Establishment of Indian National Congress. On 20th December 1885, the first session of Indian National Congress was held at Gokuldas Tejpal Sanskrit School in Mumbai. And during the time, there were 72 delegates. Delegates means representatives from different provinces of India who participated in this session. Vomesh Chandra Banerjee, a renowned lawyer, means very famous lawyer from Kolkata, he was the president of this session. And in the session, they established the Indian National Congress. Alan Hume, a British officer, he also took lead in the establishment of Indian National Congress. See students, during the time when Indian National Congress was formed, increased proportion of Indians in the administration and reduction of military expenses by the British government. Such statements were sent to the British. Now, let us see about the objectives of Indian National Congress. First one is to make the people from different parts of our India forget the differences in religion, race, caste, language, geographical territories, and bring them on a common platform. Second objective is to understand each other problems and views. Third one is to increase the feeling of oneness or unity among the people. And fourth one is to take efforts for the development of the country. So these were the objectives when Indian National Congress formed. After the establishment of Indian National Congress, the first few years, that period were known as a moderate period or moderate phase, and later the period were known as extremist phase or extremist period. So let us see about moderate phase and extremist phase. Moderate phase. The early 10 years after the establishment of Indian National Congress means the period between 1885 to 1905. It's known as a period of moderate, or we call it moderate phase. During this time, the contribution of moderates was very slow but consistent. The leaders of Indian National Congress were realistic and highly educated. They were aware that through organized work, a strong foundation needs to be built up. Western thinkers, philosophy of liberalism, freedom, equality, fraternity, these values had an impact on them. They believe in constitutional methods. Students, constitutional methods means legal method, means fight or present our demand peacefully in front of the government. So the moderate had a hope that if we demand through constitutional methods, then only the British will give justice to our demands. The leaders like Gopal Krishna Gokhale, Firoz Shah Mehta, Surendranath Banerjee, they all were the moderate leaders. In the session of Indian National Congress, different resolutions were put forward by them, such as, for example, to get representation in provincial legislature, jobs for educated Indians, cutting down the increasing expenses on military, then legislature and judiciary should be separated for safeguarding the legal rights of Indians, etc. These all about the moderate phase. Now let us see about the extremist phase. The period of 1905 to 1920 is known as a period of extremist, or we call it extremist phase. What is meant by extremist? The leaders of Indian National Congress who believed in severe struggle. Severe means a strong or strict struggle to attain the freedom were known as extremist. Moderate and extremist were unanimous, means together they think about and they work for the objectives of Indian National Congress. But they had differences regarding the methods to achieve it. They advocated intensification of the struggle since the British did not respond to the petition and appeals. Lokmanya Tilak, Bipin Chandra Pal, Lala Lajpat Rai were leaders of the extremist group of Indian National Congress. According to these leaders, if lakhs of people participated in the freedom movement and challenged the British movement, it will be successful. They did not adopt the means of arms revolution but insisted on extensive agitations. Now let us see about the methods or the mediums adopted by the extremists. Initially, the leaders used the mediums of newspapers, national festivals, national education to bring about the political awakening. Let us see about each one of them in short. Firstly, newspapers. Lokmanya Tilak started the newspapers Keshri and Maratha and criticized the suppressive policies of the British through it. Then Amrit Bazar Patrika was a mouthpiece of extremist ideology in Bengal. Now the next one is national festivals. Lokmanya Tilak organized public celebrations of Ganeshotsav and Shiv Jayanti to bring together the people, exchange their ideas, promote harmony and bring about national awakening. He believed that the government will ban gathering of people for political reasons but not for religious reasons. Now the next one is national education. The leaders formed educational institutions to sow the seeds of patriotism. It would create a generation which will be concerned about the language and tradition. So students, all Indian leaders who were politically aware, they kept aside their differences of caste, religion, language, provinces and gathered on a single platform of Indian National Congress. The moderate led the foundation of freedom movement, but the extremist carried forward the movement. So like that way, the moderate and extremist, they both work for freedom movement under the tag or under the organization which is known as Indian National Congress. Rest of the part in this lesson we will be seen in the next video.